Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So happy you're here today because if you love bullet journaling but hate spending hours setting up a new month, I made this video especially for you because we're going to create a simplified version of my August setup, keeping it as simple as possible to show that bullet journaling can be for everyone at any stage of their journaling journey. And by the end, you'll have a full monthly setup that looks cute, keeps your journal organized, and most importantly, doesn't take forever to make. So grab your journal and let's make a month together. First, a few things you'll need is a pencil, of course. I'm using a mechanical one. Then you'll need an outliner pen of various sizes. I like to use a rubber eraser and also a putty eraser for cleaning up my sketch marks. A couple of washi tapes that fit the color scheme, a straight edge ruler, and not completely necessary, but some black brush pens for some brush lettering, some Tombow brush pens that fit your color scheme, a good old trusted black pen, and of course some stickers to have a bit of fun with. With all these supplies, we can now begin creating our first spread that every monthly setup needs, the calendar. So I'm starting with the calendar because for me, this is really the foundation of the entire monthly setup and where I like to establish as much of the theme's voice in the spread as possible. So accents, color schemes, patterns, illustrations, anything you want to introduce to the concept of your theme should be displayed in your calendar. So now I'm going to show you the steps on how to create the skeleton work for this calendar. You're going to start at the very first column of the right page and count downwards 10 spaces and create a mark. Then from there, count 2 more spaces and create another mark. And for the next 5 marks, count down 4 spaces each. So here I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4 mark, 1, 2, 3, 4 mark. And I keep on going until I made 5 of those marks. With those initial marks made, I'm now going to transfer them over to the left page and create the exact same marks on the same areas. This is pretty much just me spacing out the vertical part of my calendar grid. And with my vertical part done, I'm now moving on to the horizontal marks. So I'm going to create my first mark at the leftmost part of the right page. Then from there, I'm going to count to the right 4 times and create a mark. Then repeat the process 4 more times. So again, we're just going to 1, 2, 3, 4 mark, 1, 2, 3, 4 mark, until you see 6 total marks for the horizontal grid. Now for the left page, you're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going as far out as 2 additional marks. Now that we made our vertical and horizontal grid outlook, we can now start sketching out the actual lines of our calendar. And the way to do that is essentially extending the marks you made until you reach the limit of the grid you created. So as you can see here, all I'm merely doing is drawing out the lines starting from the marks we just made all the way to the very last mark. Now we're not done yet. From the lowest left corner of the calendar grid, count to the left 3 spaces and create a mark. Then from there, count to the left 9 more spaces and create another mark. Then I'm going to create the exact same marks directly above them, but I'm going to line it up with the second vertical mark going down. If none of that made sense, just watch what I do here. I'm so sorry guys, I'm really bad at describing things technically. But what we just created here is a space for extra notes or just anything you want it to be, and that it might not fit into the boxes of a calendar, so something like a grocery list, master to-do list. I like to accompany a calendar with something like that to give myself more space to write. And just like that, the skeleton of our calendar spread is complete. The first row here is for the days of the week, then you have the days of the month here with extra space for miscellaneous work. Your spread can go from this to this, and I'll show you how I personally get there. I first go in with a putty eraser to clean out the sketch marks, just enough for me to still faintly see it as my outline. Then I'm going to go in and start outlining my spread. I'm pretty strategic in the way I do it. First, I start with an O2 to start outlining the actual skeleton of the calendar. To me, this is thick enough to give the calendar some presence without it being too loud. Now when I'm going in, I start to curve the upper corners of the calendar just to give it a slight softness. And as I'm outlining, you'll see that I'm going in with a really light motion to get some slight gaps in there once in a while and break up the lines a bit. It's an outlining method I use to make the calendar feel a bit more soft and not too bold and loud. Now I'm going to go back in with a slightly thinner outliner, size 01. This is to create a subtle border around the entire calendar. Now you can see that I'm still using the same outlining method and breaking the lines a bit, but I'm doing it as close to the actual calendar spread as I can to help give the calendar a softer border. For the notes section, I'm going to outline it the same way, first by starting with my O2 liner, curving the upper corners. And a little cool thing to do here is make sort of a curved triangle shape on the bottom right corner to kind of resemble a corner of a page being curled up. Still with my O2 liner, I'm now adding a 3D effect to this note section so that it can start resembling an actual notepad. This is completely optional. If you don't want it to be a notepad and just keep it two-dimensional, you totally can if you think it fits with your theme and aesthetic better. And with the brush pen, I'm drawing incomplete circles here to mimic the spirals of the notepad. I like to always add these small details here just to elevate a section in the simplest of ways. With all my outlining done, I'm going to erase the rest of the pencil marks so I can get it ready for some color. To fit with the cow theme, I'm using a muted brown cream color scheme, but you can choose any two colors that you like. First, I'm going to take the lighter of the two colors and use it to color in the header for the days of the week. I want to make sure the color is still light enough for me to be able to write over it and still read it. Then I'm taking the dark secondary color and using it to create a small circle in the upper right-hand corner of each square that pertains to a day of the month. If your calendar doesn't fit the last few days of the month, what I do is use the bottom left corner of the square it would have been below of, and then just go in with an outliner to create a demarcation. Here I'm using a hard tip Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen to write out the days of the week. Then I'm going in with my O1 outliner to number the days of the month. With that same outliner, I'm using it to create some lining details within the 3D effect of the notepad to have it resemble multiple pages layered together. Then I'm going back in with a darker colored brush pen to color in the slight border we just made around the calendar. For these empty spaces, if you ever get them in your month, what I like to do is fill it with some kind of fun pattern because it's a nice opportunity to give the spread just a bit more personality. So here I'm going to be creating a subtle plaid effect where you start off with a simple thick grid, then you go in with a thinner line and create the same grid just slightly off from the original grid. So here I have the original grid and I'm just going slightly to the left of the vertical lines. As for the horizontal lines, I'm going to be going just slightly above it. Then I use the same marker to shade in the 3D shadow of the notepad, and for some extra color, I'm bringing back the lighter cream shade to highlight some rows for the notepad, skipping a space in between. So you can see just from two colors alone, the aesthetic and vibe of my theme is starting to come to life, and there's still plenty of space for whatever I want to add, like a monthly title, some accents here and there. It's all an opportunity to cater it back to my chosen theme. Now that I have my calendar, I'm moving on to my habit tracker and then later the mood tracker. For an easy habit tracker layout, I'll have a space up top for the main title. Then I'm going to create 6 mini-size calendars spaced out in a triangle to track each habit in each calendar, then have the remaining space for any decor and accents. The first thing to do is start sketching out our outline. So I'm going from the very upper left-hand corner and counting 2 spaces to the right. Then from there, I'm counting 10 spaces down and making my first mark. From there, I'm counting 7 spaces to the right and making another mark. This space we just made is for the header title of each habit calendar. I'm going to create another mark immediately to the right of it and continue the pattern until I make 3 total spaces for the header titles. Now skipping a space below the header, I'm going to make a corner mark, and I'm making another one 7 spaces to the right of it, and it should be right below the second mark. Then from there, I'm counting 6 spaces down and making the same 2 corner marks. Then I'll just repeat the same process underneath the 2 other headers. After that, I'm going to recreate the whole thing 3 more times to create 6 total habit calendars, but I'm placing them in a triangular orientation as you'll see soon. Now we have 6 total habit calendars with space set aside to incorporate our theme motifs. But first I have to shape each calendar to make it the actual shape of the month that I am in, so that I know exactly what day to cross off a habit that I completed. So I'm just referencing the calendar we just made to know when the month starts and ends. Then I'll go back and recreate the same shape. Each square space should represent a day, so I'm just going to count off the spaces that are not part of the month, and I'll sketch my calendar around that. So here we have our full 31 days, and now I'll just repeat this step for the next 5 calendars. Now that I have my basic skeleton of my habit tracker all sketched out, I'm now erasing all the excessive marks that I won't be outlining. It helps me make sense of what I'm seeing before I outline everything. Here I'm just using an O2 outliner to softly outline out all the calendars I just sketched. I'm bringing back my muted brown marker to start highlighting the spaces for the headers. Again, this is for you, so you can use whatever color you want to use here. And this is actually one of my favorite layouts to include in a monthly setup because it gives me a really quick visual representation of how I've been taking care of myself throughout the month. But I do want to make one thing very clear. You do not need to track everything. It's really tempting to make a habit tracker with like 15 or 20 habits because you have 15 or 20 things you would like to be doing. But if I create a tracker that feels like a second job every time I open my journal, I'm probably not going to use it. With the skeleton of our habit tracker all done, you can start to see all the potential that's left for you to leave your fingerprints on your theme. There's so many things that can turn this into this. You see how I reinforce my theme's color scheme by adding similarly colored stickers and added in gingham accents and stars here and there to tie everything together. So now that we have a completed habit tracker, we can now move on to the mood tracker. I forgot to mention before, but I'm using this Helix ruler to help me draw out the circles I'll need. If you don't have one, try finding an object with similar size to trace a circle around and a much smaller one in the center. We're pretty much going to be creating a donut. First, I'm splitting the page in half by counting 3 spaces in and drawing a line straight down. Then I'll take my Helix ruler and centering it to the line I sketched out and taking the pencil to the very edge and tracing a circle to the center of the page, slightly towards the lower half. I'm leaving space up for the title. Then doing the same thing but creating a much smaller circle, making sure I still mark my center point, which will be really important in this step right here, where I'm bringing in my straight edge ruler and I'm lining up the ruler up against the center point I just made and start sketching out lines from the outer point of the circle to the inner circle. And I'm repeating this step until I have 31 total spaces, or however much you need for that month. I'm not completely worried about making them evenly spaced. Again, this is not supposed to be too time consuming. This is supposed to be easy for you to create and have an easy mood tracker. With that done, I'm taking a putty eraser to line up my sketch to get it ready to be outlined. Still using the O2 outliner, I'm simply tracing over the sketch we just made. You can use the same circular ruler or straight edge to outline if you like. I personally like the raw outlining effect more because it fits with the soft and natural aesthetic of my theme. Now we can create the key to color code your mood tracker. From the center line you created, count 1 space to the right, then sketch out a 2x2 circle, and you'll create another one 2 more spaces to the right, and then do the same thing to the left. I've chosen 4 colors that still kind of fit my color scheme that I'm going to be using for my mood tracker key. I like to keep it a gradient of the same color to kind of show the gradual change in my mood spectrum. So here I'm just coloring in all 4 circles with each of the colors, then outlining the face of the mood I want it to represent. If a color is ever too dark to outline over, I sometimes just use a white gel pen to see it better. With the mood tracker skeleton all set up, you can now see what we're working with and how much space you'll have to incorporate what you want to go from this to this. Still incorporating the same motifs from my previous spreads and keeping it all a strong focal point and theme story. We can now move on to one of the easiest spreads to make, 1 line a day, and then lastly will be our playlist. So here you'll start at the upper left-hand corner, count 2 spaces to the right, then 6 spaces down. Right below that mark is where we can start counting down our days of the month. Here I'm just using a basic black pen to number the days straight down. If you're unfamiliar, 1 line a day spreads basically are where, instead of asking myself to write a full journal entry every day, I get to give myself 1 simple line instead. 1 line to sum up your day, whether it be a song lyric, movie quote, highlight, or literally anything. I'm bringing back the 2 same colored brush pens, taking one of them, highlighting the first row, counting down 3 spaces, highlighting again, and repeating that same process. We're essentially highlighting every other row with alternating colors to help break up the page and make it still feel cohesive to the theme. So right after this, I'm taking my second color and highlighting the middle row right in between the brown rows. I'm not even joking, that's literally it. Minus some decor here and there you want to add and a title page so that you can turn a spread like this into this. It literally takes less than a minute to make this spread, and that's why I love it so much. And finally, we have our monthly playlist. The idea I have for this is essentially creating 6 separate cards that highlight the song and its artist, and it'll all surround the title, which I'll place in the center right of the page. So first, let's get to sketching. Here is where you can give yourself some more freedom. It really just comes down to creating 6 8x10 boxes and place them anywhere you like. You could have them overlap each other or space them out evenly. If you do choose to overlap, just make sure to consider not covering the top half of the box because that's where we want to write the song title and artist. And if you don't know where to place them, you can always refer to my layout here. I like to do some overlap and some free floating. You'll see that I just drew the boxes right over each other for now because I'm going to be erasing the extra marks later. The way I do that is that I have to choose which box I'm sending to the back and which one I'm sending forward and erase the part of the box that's moving back. After that, we're going to putty the whole page and get ready to outline. I'm using 3 of the same colors from the Mood Tracker key to outline my boxes this time because I think it will give this spread a pop of color. Because there's 6 boxes, we're going to do 2 of each color, making sure to space them out to mix it all up. Or if you want, you can try giving it a gradient effect and go from light to dark. Just a random thought, but that could be cool too. Now within each box is where I start to write the songs that represent my month. It could either be a song that's been on repeat lately or a song that just fits the overall vibe of the month, whatever floats your boat. I've been on a Fleetwood Mac kick lately, and Landslide and Silver Springs have been on repeat for me the last couple of weeks. Underneath this song title, I'm doing a quick illustration of the pause play buttons to make it feel more like the song is playing. And I forgot to film this part, but I did add the artist name right below the song title. And later, because I can't help myself and I love a little pizzazz, I'm going to add some star accents to each box. So a little here or there around the song title and maybe in the corner of the box, just whatever I feel like. And with that, your playlist is now complete. With the way I laid out the boxes, I still gave myself some space to input back my theme motifs with accents here and there, making it still look and feel like part of the month. And this is what the entire monthly setup looks like when everything is finished. We've got our calendar, habit tracker, mood tracker, highlights, and playlist. And I think this is a really good example of what I mean when I say that your bullet journal doesn't have to be complicated to be useful. You don't even have to draw or illustrate anything to make a super cute spread. Every page has a purpose, and there's still plenty of room for creativity and decoration to make it your own. And with that, our month is officially ready to begin. I hope you guys like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and please tag me if you ever get the chance to recreate these spreads. I'd love to see how you guys make it yours. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.